Have you ever wondered why those who once depended on us so much seem to forget us over time? That question weighs on the heart, doesn't it? After all, we dedicated love, time, and countless sacrifices to ensure the best for them. Sleepless nights, constant worries, and selfless sacrifices. Everything was done for a greater good, to watch them grow and build their own stories. But now, with the house silent and the emptiness filling the spaces, that anguish arises, that question that hurts. Do they not see everything we have done? Why do we no longer seem to be a priority in their lives? The truth, as hard as it may be, is that life has a way of reshuffling priorities. As they grow older, they face their own challenges, chase their dreams, and carry their own burdens. And in the middle of all this, we, who were once the center of their universe, suddenly find ourselves on the sidelines, almost like a distant memory, a quiet presence they assume will always be there, no matter how much time passes. That seems unfair, doesn't it? It even feels cruel. But the reality is that the modern world pushes them into a relentless routine, full of distractions that make them lose sight of what truly matters. If you have ever felt this way or know someone who needs to hear this message, like this video and share it. Let's bring this reflection to more people. And don't forget to comment. How have you dealt with this reality? Your story might inspire and comfort others. However, this feeling of abandonment does not come only from them. It also comes from within us. Because as much as a parent's love is unconditional, there is a hidden desire inside us, the need to feel recognized, to know that all our efforts were not in vain. And when that validation does not come in the way we expect, a void grows within us, an unease that makes us question whether we have been left behind. Admitting this is not easy, but it is necessary. We are human, and our hearts crave that acknowledgement. However, perhaps there is something deeper that we often avoid seeing. Are we clinging to an idea of what we should receive in return? Are we hurting ourselves by expecting gratitude that they may not even know how to express? These are difficult reflections, but they are essential to understanding the root of this feeling. Because even though we have given everything and loved without limits, the reality is that they have gone their own way, while we remain here, trying to understand at what point the connection started to fade. After all, becoming a parent changes the heart in an indescribable way. It is as if a new kind of love is born within us. A love so pure and unconditional that we forget ourselves. Over the years, this love transforms into care, tireless dedication, and boundless devotion. We become the foundation of a life that is still learning to stand on its own. When our children need us, we give ourselves completely. If they fall, we help them get back up. When they are afraid, we are their safe haven. There is nothing we wouldn't do for them because that is the role we take on. Often, we do this without even realizing the weight of it, but with the certainty that it is worth it. Because, in the end, all we want is to see them happy. And amidst all of this, we carry a silent hope deep in our hearts, sometimes without even noticing it. The hope that one day they will look back and understand everything we did for them, that they will recognize every sacrifice, every decision we made for their sake. In a way, we wish they would see us as the heroes we once were. And perhaps that is what makes it so hard. Because the truth is, they do not always see it. Our children do not always realize how much love we poured into every little detail. Not because they are ungrateful or insensitive, but because, to them, all of it seemed natural, just part of life. Think about it. How often did we stop in our youth to truly reflect on everything our own parents did for us? How often did we consider their exhaustion, the sleepless nights, or the worries that consumed them? For most of us, that realization only came much later, when maturity gave us a different perspective. And that is precisely why the silence of our children, the lack of recognition, hurts so much. Because deep down, We know they do not understand yet, that perhaps they will only truly grasp it when they go through something similar themselves. But until that day comes, their absence lingers, and it is almost inevitable to feel this emptiness, this sense that something is not quite right. After all, we spent years building a home, giving them everything we could, offering ourselves without hesitation. And now, at a stage in life when we need companionship, attention, and simple gestures of affection the most, it seems as though they no longer have time for us. It feels as if the love that was once so obvious has somehow gotten lost amid the demands and burdens of modern life. And that hurts, because it is not just the physical distance that affects us, but the emotional one as well. We miss that look, the one that says, without words, "I know how important you have been to me. I know how much you have given me." Perhaps it is not even the silence itself that hurts the most, but rather the expectation we built over the years that things would be different. The truth is, at some point, we created an image of how things should be. We imagined that our children would always stay close, always be available, always ready to give back the love and care we once gave them. But life rarely follows the script we envisioned. They grow up, face their own challenges, build their own families, and the space we once held in their lives seems to shrink. And while they are out there, busy with the world, we are left here, caught between the past we built and the present that forces us to face their absence. The reality is that emotional distance from our children, no matter how painful, is something many of us experience, even if we do not openly admit it. It is not just about the lack of visits or not having enough time for a call. It is the deeper feeling that the once unbreakable bond has become fragile. Sometimes they are physically present. They send a quick message or make a short phone call, but the warmth, the real connection, seems to have faded along the way. And that is when loneliness creeps in, even when we are not physically alone. It is as if an invisible wall separates us, a gap that words cannot seem to bridge, a void that makes us ask, when did everything change? The truth is, the world we live in today is not the same as the one we knew when we were young parents, full of energy and dreams for the future. Modern society is a whirlwind of responsibilities, pressures, and distractions. The children we raised and watched grow now carry the weight of a life that demands everything from them: work, family, bills, goals to achieve. And in this relentless pace, the simplest relationships, the ones built on love and presence, slowly fade into the background. It is not that they do not love us, but their priorities have shifted, and often they do not even realize how much they are leaving us behind. Meanwhile, as parents, we feel every absence like an open wound, because for us, love has never changed. We still see them as those little children who once held our hands with trust, who looked at us with admiration, who ran into our arms for comfort. But they have grown, and with that growth came inevitable changes. The dependence that once felt so natural has turned into independence. And although we know this is a part of life, it is difficult to accept that this independence often comes with a distance that seems emotionally impossible to overcome. What makes it even harder is that, unlike them, we hold vivid memories of everything we went through together. Our children, however, rarely have that same clarity. They do not remember the sleepless nights we spent caring for them when they were sick. They do not think about the moments when we hid our worries so they would not feel burdened. And most of the time, they have no idea how many sacrifices we made to ensure they had a better future. To them, all of it was simply a part of life, something that was always there, like the sun rising every morning. And that very lack of awareness is what, without meaning to, ends up hurting us. If you can relate to this feeling or know someone who should hear this message, like this video and share it. Let's bring this reflection to more people, and don't forget to comment. Have you ever felt this way? Your story might inspire and comfort others. It is important to understand that this pain is not unique to those growing older. It is a cycle that repeats itself from generation to generation, because, over time, the roles reverse. We, who were once the caregivers, now find ourselves in a position where we need care. But accepting this shift in dynamics is one of life's greatest emotional challenges, because what we long for is not just physical care but true presence, the kind of love that makes us feel that we still matter, that we still hold value. And when that presence fades, the feeling of invisibility sets in. It is as if we have become just a shadow in the background of their lives, something that exists but is rarely noticed. And that is deeply painful, because it makes us wonder if we are truly seen, if our love and dedication over the years still hold any meaning. And perhaps the greatest struggle of all is not allowing this pain to consume us, not letting it take away our ability to find purpose in our own existence, even when our children do not appreciate us in the way we had hoped. As hard as it may be, sometimes we must take a step back and try to see things from a different perspective, because deep down, our children are also just human, carrying their own pain, their own weaknesses, and often they lack the maturity or emotional awareness to recognize the impact their absence has on us. It is difficult to admit, but they are not always ready to look beyond their own lives and truly see what we mean to them. And do you know what is most fascinating about this? In most cases, it is not out of malice or a lack of love. It is simply because they are still trying to find their own place in the world, learning how to deal with their own insecurities and challenges. Do you remember what it was like in our youth? The worries and fears that constantly occupied our minds? There were so many things demanding our attention, so many new responsibilities we had to learn to handle. How often were we so caught up in our own struggles that, without realizing it, we pushed our parents into the background, and perhaps, at the time, we had no idea how much that might have hurt them. This cycle of life, as cruel as it may seem, repeats itself. And now, on the other side, we are the ones feeling the weight of being forgotten. But that does not mean our children do not love us or do not appreciate what we have done for them. Often, the issue is not a lack of love, but an inability to express it. They do not know how to balance their busy lives with the affection they would like to show us. To them, a quick "I love you" or a short visit on the weekend might seem enough. But for us, it often feels insufficient compared to the intensity of what we once shared with them. And this difference between what we gave and what we receive can create an emotional gap that deepens the feeling of distance. Another point we rarely acknowledge is that the mistakes we made as parents throughout our lives may have also left marks on our children. No matter how much love and dedication we poured into their upbringing, we are human, and we made mistakes. Perhaps, at times, we were too strict, or maybe, in our effort to protect them, we stifled the freedom they needed to grow. These small frictions, which may seem insignificant to us, could have shaped the way they interact with us today. And as painful as it may be, we must accept that our own choices have influenced the dynamics we now experience. Still, it is essential to remember that the cycle of life follows its own logic, even when it seems unfair. As we grow older, society places us in a position where we feel less visible, less significant. And this happens within the family as well. The children who are now adults take center stage in their own stories, while we become secondary characters. Not because they want to erase us, but because this is the natural course of life. And the challenge lies in finding a way to live with this reality, without letting it extinguish our inner light. It may seem impossible, but there is strength in recognizing the humanity of our children. When we understand that our children also have limits, that they are fighting their own battles, we can begin to release some of the weight our hearts carry. This does not mean justifying the distance or accepting indifference, but rather recognizing that a lack of appreciation often stems more from emotional unawareness than from a lack of genuine love. And once we realize this, we can start looking for ways to rebuild the connection, even if it is different from what we had imagined. Despite the pain that this sense of distance may bring, there is something we must never forget. We still have the ability to find peace and meaning in our lives, even as time reshapes the relationships around us. The truth is, as much as we long to be appreciated by our children, we cannot rely solely on that recognition to feel whole, because, in the end, our journey as parents was always about something much greater than any form of acknowledgement. It was about love. It was about dedication. It was about giving the best of ourselves without expecting anything in return. And that alone is something extraordinary, something that no one can take away from us. But that does not mean we should simply accept the distance without trying to restore the connection. Sometimes, a simple conversation, an honest expression of our feelings, can open doors that once seemed closed. Of course, talking about these emotions is not easy. There is the fear of seeming needy, the worry of creating tension, or the discomfort of appearing vulnerable. But is staying silent truly the best solution? Perhaps now is the time to calmly and lovingly express what is in our hearts, to show our children that we miss them, that we cherish every moment spent with them, and that we would love to be more present in their lives. Not as a reproach, but as an invitation to strengthen the bond that has always existed. At the same time, we must also learn to look at ourselves with more kindness. Throughout our lives, we have given so much time and energy to others that we often forgot to take care of ourselves. Now, in this stage of life, it is time to reconnect with who we are. What makes us happy? What brings us peace? What dreams have we set aside that might still be possible to achieve? Finding meaning beyond our relationship with our children is not just an act of self-love, but also a way to show them that our lives remain rich and full of purpose. Because, in the end, when we value ourselves, we teach others to value us too. And one thing is certain: the love we have given them will never be in vain. Even if they do not show it the way we would like, even if appreciation seems distant, the love we have given leaves its mark. It is there, in every act of kindness they bring into the world, in every lesson they carry with them, in every part of who they have become. What we have sown as parents continues to grow, even when we cannot always see the fruits clearly. And sometimes, it takes patience because their understanding may only come with time, perhaps only when they go through similar experiences themselves. Regardless of how long it takes, we must not allow the actions of others, not even our children's, to define our worth. Life is a cycle, and every stage brings its own lessons and challenges. Perhaps the hardest lesson at this stage is accepting that not everything is within our control. But that does not mean we are powerless. We can choose how we respond, how we interpret what happens to us, and how we seek happiness and meaning, even when things do not go as we planned. And this wisdom is something only time can teach us. If there is one thing we can do to strengthen these bonds, it is to show love in simple ways, without expecting anything in return. An unexpected call, a kind gesture, a word of encouragement. Sometimes, what seems small is enough to rekindle a connection that has faded. And even if there is no response, we must remember that we have done our part, that the love we have given will always be the greatest legacy we leave behind. Because our worth is not determined by how others see us, but by what we carry within our hearts. If this message resonated with you, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and leave a comment. Your story might bring comfort and inspiration to others who are going through the same experience.